Welcome to Category Visionaries, the show dedicated to exploring exciting visions for the future from the founders who are on the front lines building it. In each episode, we'll speak with a visionary founder who's building a new category or reimagining an existing one. We'll learn about the problem they solve, how their technology works, and unpack their vision for the future. I'm your host, Brett Stapper, CEO of Frontlines Media. Now let's dive right into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Category Visionaries. Today we're speaking with Sela, CEO and founder of illumex, a generative semantic fabric platform that's raised $13 million in funding. Ina, how are you?
Great, Brett. Thank you for having me over.
No problem. Super excited to have you here and appreciate you taking this so late on a Thursday your time. So to jump in, let's talk about what you're building today.
Yeah, so illumex is a self-service access for data analytics for every employee and big companies. Think about banks, insurance, pharma companies. And when you start using this experience, which is ChatGPT-like on your databases, you want it to be hallucination-free, governed, and fast. This is exactly what illumex provides to our customers.
Take us back to the founding of the company. What was it about this idea, this product, this problem that made you say, yep, that's it, I'm going to go build?
Oh, I'm an enterprise veteran. So I have spent around 12 years at SAP and then around 2 years at Sisense as VP Artificial Intelligence. And I saw big companies really struggling to provide this self-service access to data. And even without the every data interaction always involves human being. So I thought it's a good idea to automate some redundant and tedious tasks, which are also repetitive and allow us as humans to interact with data freely. This is what illumex is about.
What did the first, let's say, 6 months look like for you?
Okay, so the first 6 months were really exhilarating. It was this total freedom of making your own decisions without tedious processes to adhere to. And what was also beautiful about is building team, fundraising, and telling the story to so many people who got excited and onboarded our journey. I think we were already 10 people after first 2 months of our incorporation.
And what was the focus initially in terms of segments of the market? Was it always enterprise that you were targeting, or what was that decision making in terms of the focus on the market segment?
Oh, it's such a sad story. So we started our commercial go-to-market, first a paid engagement in 2022. And the idea was to go after unicorns, like software unicorns, SaaS, B2B companies, and sell the solution to them. But you know what happened in 2022, right? So the market turned down, and especially those companies broadened their budgets. It's okay, so it's not going to be as easy. And we changed our strategy to sell to enterprise, and we started to go after enterprises. And of course, it was a uphill battle. We started with paid POCs and then our first deals. And think about big chip manufacturers, pharma companies, big retail corporations. Those are elephants that we hunted in our first go-to-market year.
What about the market category? So I had introduced you as a generative semantic fabric platform. Is that the market category, or what is the market category?
Another uphill battle. So we're actually creating a category which is called generative semantic fabric. Right now, it does not exist. And this category speaks about the ability of companies to translate the technical data to humanly understandable business language. Right. So this is exactly what illumex does. And it actually combines a plethora of existing solutions and just automates all of them. Think about cataloging, think about the ontologies, think about the chatbots or agentic analytics, and combination of them is actually generative semantic fabric.
Did you know on day one that it was going to be a category creation play, or at what point did you realize that?
Yeah, I was aware it's category creation. So I realized from day one it's category creation journey, but for the sake of saying fundraising, I had to bring those parallels. So I was explaining, you know what, we are catalog, but automated. And we are like this conversational tools, but you don't need to model it to your data. So I was trying to bring these parallels to existing tools for investors to understand where we are, but it wasn't easy. I would say only the last year, with generative AI adoption and ChatGPT and all of those tools really brought a wider understanding what illumex is doing.
This show is brought to you by Frontlines Media, a podcast production studio that helps B2B founders launch, manage, and grow their own podcast. Now, if you're a founder, you may be thinking, I don't have time to host a podcast. I've got a company to build. Well, that's exactly what we built our service to do. You show up and host, and we handle literally everything else. To set up a call to discuss launching your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. Now, back to today's episode. How long did it take for you to figure out that term, generative semantic fabric? Was that a process to get there? Were there other names that were considered, or how'd you end up there?
Yes, so generative semantic fabric is combination of different terms, and I would not say it's totally final category name for us because it's mouthful. Generative because we automate these processes and we use generative AI from day one. The company was incorporated in 2021, and we always say that it takes generative AI to become generative AI ready. So generative was our buzzword from day one. A semantic is something that we understood that 2 years ago, no one actually understood this term, right? What's semantic, right? Now everyone speaks this is terminology, semantic language model, semantic AI, and so on and so forth. So semantic was chosen during last year. And fabric is also a word which I personally like. You don't need to speak about your data as monolithic components, your SAP system, your CRM, your database, your data lake. It's a fabric of all available data. You don't really need to care what's underneath. So yeah, parts of this naming really archaeologic in the startup timeline, and part of them are new.
So from the founding of the company until you had your first paying customer, how long did that take?
It took us almost 18 months. Yeah.
What did that first customer see in you, or how'd you get that first paying customer across the line? That's obviously typically the hardest deal to make happen.
We had this demo, and it was actually an interesting story. I didn't know that this conversation will end up with a sales process. Of course, it was intention, right? So it was newly hired manager, and he was looking for a tool to basically perform that job that I was hired for. And I demoed the solution. And then he asked, okay, so how do we proceed? And it's like, okay, you pay X dollars. And now when you could connect to your metadata, it will require like security clearance, X, Y, Z. So I really explained it like I know what I'm doing. And it worked. It surprisingly worked, and we surprisingly delivered. Well, it was not surprising to deliver. I really felt ready, but it was no certainty this process is going to convert so fast.
At that 18-month mark, was that clear to you then that it was going to be viable? Or at what point did you start to say like, okay, we've really got something here, this is going to work?
I was ignorant in the sense, there's all this lean startup, MVP, like what's most, the small valuable or small lovable product that you build. So I was ignorant enough to say, okay, we build this small pieces of functionality and interface, and we'll try to sell them. The thing is, for the offering that we provide to companies like the augmented data management and access, you really need to have small Swiss knife. So it's not enough to have just one fork or one component of the Swiss knife. You really have to have full offering, which is minimal, right? Of course, we extended it significantly then, but you have to have this plethora of features. So till we build this minimum valuable product, we couldn't sell it, by features, especially in this data management. It's mature industry. You have to have a full cycle. Yeah.
What about your marketing strategy? How would you describe the marketing strategy that you began with? And then how has it evolved and what's it look like today?
I would say something which is probably very unusual on this podcast. We still have not started our paid social, right? So far, all we have done is product marketing, speaking sessions, going to webinars, reaching out, publishing ebooks, everything that you can actually contribute to community, contribute to knowledge. And also, when I started pitching illumex, it was very non-orthodox approach. So what we say is basically your business people need to access your data. So you need to manage your data by business principles and business semantics. And back then was not really clear understood by the market. Market was all covered by solutions which cater to technical people and provide technical data management and technical generative AI. So it was like, why would I even care about business people in the context of data? So I would say my content was controversial, and it actually appealed to certain people, and those certain people became our first adopters and ambassadors. And now it's pretty much mainstream. Everyone understands that data does not exist for data people. Data exists to serve business. It's kind of a ground truth, but it wasn't very evident when I started promoting illumex.
Was that hard to put your ideas out there like that, knowing that it was going to go against what others believe and what was commonly held beliefs in the industry?
I actually thought it's a benefit to have controversial opinions and to some extent differentiate product, because this is how you make change. This is how you make difference. I do not believe in incremental improvements, especially when you have generative AI. So generative AI is with us since 2017. To me, it was evident that we are going to go through major shifts as an industry, and incremental improvements will not cut. So many people actually say that illumex built a surfboard before the generative AI came. So we were like 6 months on the market before ChatGPT hit, and everyone got excited. So to me, it was evident that we might be a little bit early with our messaging, but it will serve us long term.
This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Co., a marketing leader's best friend in these times of budget cuts and efficient growth. We help marketing leaders find, hire, vet, and manage amazing marketing talent for 50 to 70% less than their US and European counterparts. To book a free consultation, visit globaltalent.co.
As you reflect on the go-to-market journey so far, what would you say has been the most important decision that you've made to date? And take us behind the scenes on how that decision was made and what the impact was.
I used to work with external agencies, hiring internally for a marketing position just made such a shift to what we do. So Alex is amazing, and she joined illumex like this May. And the change in our marketing, the new level of conversation that we have, accessibility of our content and scale, it's just amazing. We are reaching so many people. Like our scale and our reach out has improved tremendously. Even, again, we are still not spending on the paid social. We're going to start that. Even in these conditions, it's amazing what we have been able to achieve in the last 6 months. So hiring marketing expert in-house, this is what helped.
It's a good takeaway, and definitely something that I think a lot of founders struggle with. What about fundraising lessons? So as I mentioned there in the intro, 13 million raised to date. What have you learned about fundraising so far in this journey?
So we did this 30 million in 2 seeds. One seed round in 2021 and the second seed this year, 2024. So what I learned from the fundraising is the following. You really need to have a blend of investors with different appetite and different business acumen, so it can serve you on hiring, on reach out, on different aspects of investors' value add. And of course, look for investors who besides check and also take it further. Each investor has different values. Some of them are actually with operation background, so it's also very instrumental. In our recent round, it was led by MDocs Ventures and Samsung Ventures, so both corporate VCs. And this conversation started from internal interest. So basically interest from the internal teams, and then it grew into this investment engagement. And to me, this is a vote of confidence that illumex is not only capable of direct sales to enterprise, but it's also a channel and OEM play, which means we have leverage of being embedded in big companies' solutions. So think about the leverage which a corporate can bring a startup when your solution is incorporated in this enterprise solution and sold to thousands of customers.
So we're depressingly almost through 2024, and I'm sure 2025 plans have begun. What's the top priority or top priority is going to be for 2025?
Our top priority is to increase the number of logos. And in our case, again, we are after financial services and pharma and retail companies. And we see that we form those clusters, and those clusters form customer advisory boards. It's amazing to see how different professionals, they collaborate with each other and enrich each other. So it's not only about illumex, it's community which is built around illumex. So we're after this logos to join our community and enrich it. This is our biggest priority. And of course, I understand that technology advantage that we have at the moment might be temporal, and technology is just a way to catch up. And we probably have 2 to 3 years of technology advantage. In this time, we should target as much awareness as we can do, right? So be associated with generative AI adoption in enterprise as a house brand is our top priority.
Final question for you. Let's zoom out 3 to 5 years into the future. What's the big picture vision look like?
Oh, Brad, this is my favorite question. We didn't discuss that, but it's like absolutely favorite question. I'm a person who lives in the future, right? So to me, the biggest excitement to me, waking up every morning, doing my best work is application-free future. Application-free future in your workspace means you have to book a travel in your workspace, like your work environment. You don't need to manage prepaid for your booking planning, Expensify to make the expenses. You just type in or talk to whatever software launcher you have, and everything is happening on the background. So basically, agents and data and workflows are meeting with each other autonomously. You don't need to pre-model that or have like the tedious workload that we have right now in the moment. It's called application-free future. And illumex is going to be instrumental for this future in a sense, because we already built this playground where humans can interact with data, where machines can interact with data, and where machines can interact with machines. This is where we are today. And I believe it's going to be a tremendous support for application-free future in 3 to 5 years.
Amazing. I love the vision and I really love this conversation. We're up on time, so we're going to wrap here. Before we do, if there's any founders that are listening in that want to follow along with you, where should we send them? Where should they go?
I love LinkedIn for socializing in work context. So just look for me on LinkedIn. It's Ina Tokarev Sela. I know it's complicated. I was born in Ukraine, so bear with me. And I will be happy to answer your following questions.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Brett.
This episode of Category Visionaries is brought to you by Frontlines Media, Silicon Valley's leading podcast production studio. If you're a B2B founder looking for help launching and growing your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. And for the latest episode, search for Category Visionaries on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.